Hamish Pinkham. Welcome to Between Two Beers.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm a big fan after all, so...
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I've listened to a lot of the content.
How good.
Yeah, no, it's an honour to be here. Thank you.
Oh, cheers. We're very excited to have you
nice.
in the Export Beer Garden studio. And my favourite type of guest is one who brings some notes with him. You got a little notebook there on the table. What's in the notebook?
Oh, preparation's key. No, I was just having a think back through our career, really, thinking of some stories and insights, and yeah, brought back a few memories actually. Preparing for this chat, so no, looking forward to it.
Oh man, that's awesome! I haven't seen any notes like that since Detective Inspector Scott Beard came in with a list of handwritten bits and pieces. So this is good.
Or for the real ones, Joey Edwards.
Yeah, that's right.
back in the day,
episode 8 or whatever he was.
We're really excited for that. We've talked to a lot of people in the build up to this pod about you and about R&V, and it seems like Shay and I are the only two people in New Zealand who haven't been. Shay?
Yeah, we missed that rite of passage, it seems. Is it too late for us?
Disappointing. Oh, it's never too late. Never too late for the time of your life, we say.
So. Oh, there it is. There's the sales pitch. Reckon you'll be able to get time away from the home office, Steve?
Is there a little section for sort of dorky dads and teetotalers to hang out in?
Certainly. Well, we do that air rhythm now, so you can come down for a night and get back to your bed by 2 a.m.
That's the one.
So yeah, certainly for the older crowd that can't do 3 days, a little one-night wonder is always welcome.
That's the one. Steve, we're in. We're all in. And it's on the house too, by the sound of it, so brilliant.
Yeah. What is the age? Like, do you actually get a lot of older punters?
Yeah, we do. It's predominantly young, so kind of 50% of the market are that 18 to 20-year-old, school leavers, young professionals, people, who have got that time during that time of year to have these kind of escapes. So, as we said earlier, you need a bit of a runway for rhythm and vines. You need to clear the decks and almost have that week over the New Year period to really throw yourself at it. But as the history unfolds, a lot of people come back. We're finding people coming back later in life. They might have had a couple of kids, but they still want to come down and experience the rhythm magic. Everyone that's been there loves it. They walk away with a smile, and if we can encourage them back, then they're more than welcome. So,
do you have to have shredded to come down?
It's not a requirement. I think a lot of people try, myself included, every year to get fit for rhythm. But no, it's a very inclusive environment. It's not pretentious at all. It's not about how you look. It's more an attitude. Come down, let your hair down, enjoy yourself, meet some new people, and enjoy everything that rhythm and Gisborne has to offer.
Awesome.
I wasn't joking about everyone I talked to. Like, everyone's got their R&V, like, war stories or stories. It must be really cool to have created something that universally everyone knows about and talks about and has got a really good memory of.
Yeah, it is. It's a real honour to be still working on this festival, and it means a lot to so many people, not just the punters, but all the staff involved and everyone over the years that's put a lot of time into building this, this fantastic festival. So, yeah, it's a great thing to be part of. I think we wouldn't still be running it if we didn't enjoy it and we weren't proud of it. So, I was certainly here today still giving it, giving my skill set to the festival because, it's a great Kiwi institution and, long may it continue.
It's 100% that. I was about to say, it is an institution, and doing the research for it, again, while not having been there, the amount of people that you connect with through, like our football club, for example, the young guys that are coming through that are 18 to 24, they just froth it. They froth the experience. They're talking about it 6 months out. They are starting to shred. Where did that shredding for R&V come from?
I think it maybe came out of the Australian festival scene. There was that Stereosonic, which was all about kind of getting jacked and, the Australian guys getting their shirts off. And, we probably haven't done it to that extent, but it's a great time of year to get fit towards the end of the year and get your new clothes ready and, come to a place like Gisborne and let your hair down, meet some new people and getting your shred-on's all part of it.
Nice.
Got to have goals. Like I said, we have had a lot of fun researching you for this ep, and your wife, Roma, has come to the party big time. Oh, she's delivered. A lot of good voice notes. But I wanted to start by asking, do you think you would have met Roma if you'd got that role as the Bachelor?
Certainly not. Although I probably would have been chewed up and spat out of that program. But
was it genuine? Was it a genuine approach for you to be the Bachelor?
Oh, look, I think there was a pretty shallow pool of bachelors around town that they had.
Sorry, Art.
Well, they got the right one, didn't they? And
did.
It's a happy story for them. So, I think a few people got shoulder tapped, and wasn't my calling. So, but look, had enjoyed the show, and it's good to follow Art, and then Jordan was actually someone who was encouraging me to sign up for it, and he ended up going for it, and it didn't end too well for him. So Roma's she's certainly enthusiastic. So hopefully she hasn't spilled too many.
No, they're all very. I think they're all very very interesting.
Yeah, they are.
Insights into Hamish Pinkham, the man.
It's going to be an upbeat episode. So yeah, we've learned a lot about you. Bookworm, musician, barbecue enthusiast with Pinky's Kitchen, golfer. But we want to start by hearing about Hamish Pinkham, comedian. We understand that you did a stand-up comedy set at R&B one year.
Yeah, well, we were trying to re-scope the festival. It had become a little bit of a drinking, schoolies kind of camping escape. And around 2015, we tried to bring some new aspects to the festival. You know, we bought some really nice food offerings. We tried different music offerings, and one of the new initiatives was Giggle and Vines, and we worked with some local comedians to bring a taste of comedy to the festival. So in the afternoon you could crack a beer, head to the Giggle and Vines area and watch some leading comedians. We had Chopper Reed, we had some Corey Gonzalez, some of the top comedians, and there was a deal put around our team to put my hand up and have a crack. So I guess that's, I am an enthusiast and willing to give anything a go. So I think there was a little charity fundraising raffle going around to raise some money to get me up on stage, and I think I had to do about 6 or 8 minutes.
That's a long
set. Did you prepare? Are you a naturally funny person? And 2, did you prepare a set ready to go?
Well, it was more about keeping the stories going. I found the more you just kept talking, the more people didn't have a chance to walk away and intervene. But I did have a practice run at a bar in Auckland, and then
play.
It was a pretty laid back affair. But we did have a good crowd, and told some stories and anecdotes about the festival and some of the characters that I've met. And next thing you know, time was up. So, it was a fantastic reason to raise some money for charity and give it a go. But, yeah, haven't been back to the stage since.
That is a good comedy hack. You just tell a story.
Yeah, and no one has a chance to.
They might not enjoy it, but
who knows?
You're reading up the minutes.
You've thrown something in there, which is characters. And Roma suggested that you have an amazing impersonation range in your repertoire, but also the ability to throw accents on when retelling stories as well. Was any of that in that set? And does that reign true?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I've got a good friend, Travis. He's from Durban, and he taught me the ways of the bokker, and he's a good oak. He's my chana, and go the Springboks, eh?
It's good.
We love a South African accent.
It's really any more in there that you could pull out if you need to?
I don't know. I think that was part of the routine, was maybe a few impersonations of some rappers that we'd had and some scenarios over the festival.
Yeah, we'll get into those.
A few problematic. A few ones that were okay back then and now maybe not so much.
Awesome. That is awesome. Well, if you do feel the need to throw some accents or some impersonations in to add colour to this episode, please feel free.
Thank you.
The other thing Roma said is that you have an amazing, impeccable memory. Names and faces you do not forget. And she suggested we test you, which we're going to do. So she said, name any lineup from any year, and they'll be able to tell you who's on it. So, who played at R&V in 2012?
2012. That was our 10-year anniversary.
Easy one.
Put me on the spot now, but yeah, it was the kind of Knife Party, Flume, Netsky, Mark Ronson, Kimbra. It was actually a year we didn't have a headliner as such, but we collected about 6 acts together to make a really memorable lineup. There was Tame Impala on it. There was Flume played in the cellar stage, and it was a real diverse lineup and something for everyone.
He's done well.
He's done really well.
He's done very well there.
Netsky was the other one, I guess.
Yeah.
He's there every year.
Is that legit? Like you could name every year and every artist that's played?
Yeah, I've got a pretty good memory of, I've lived it, haven't I? And you spend all year, especially on the music front, it's kind of what I drive is driving that direction and those decisions, so they kind of live with you. So each year is different, and, there's eras that blur a little bit, but I guess I'm really passionate about the product and I give a shit. So yeah, I don't know. It's something that sticks with you.
That must help as well, I guess, when you go into negotiations, that you can recall facts and I guess years and figures and I remember when you played in this time and yeah, you represent so and so and they did here and they did there. That must be a really strong business asset to have as well.
Yeah, I think so. And it's it's again, just showing an interest in people and places. And I think back to kind of even university days, and it's one of the reasons we were able to get off the ground is we were able to encourage so many friends to come to Gisborne for those initial years. But I remember even at Otago University, just, showing an interest in everyone around campus. And I remember at our college, Unicol, there must have been about 400 different people and photos up on the wall. And I probably remembered about 95 of the people at our college, like what they studied, who they were, where they were from, who they were friends with. And when it came to kind of gathering different people around campus, from your kind of rugby heads to your pretty girls to your Hawke's Bay farmers, it was, easy to kind of bring all those people together about behind this common goal of New Year's in Gisborne.
Were you the big man on campus? Were you that guy at Otago Uni? Everybody knew who Hamish was?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think I was pretty enthusiastic. I used to be a bit of an organiser. We had a university band. We'd play at the Captain Cook on Wednesday nights, and we used to encourage people to come down there, and I was putting my hand up to organise the grad party and playing at the university college at the rugby club. And so, yeah, enthusiastic, no pretentiousness, and just wanting to get along with everyone and I guess, taking people for who they are.
The last one I want to talk about before we sort of start painting the picture is, I think this gives real insight into who you are and perhaps why you've been so successful, is during lockdown. And Roma told us that you can't sit still, you've always got to have a project on. So one, there was Pinky's Kitchen, which go and have a look on Instagram. There's Pinky's Kitchen Instagram page. Apparently unbelievable meats and smoked all sorts, 5 different barbecues and gone the extra mile. But the other one was that because you studied to be a lawyer, you got a law degree, and at a stage of lockdown where you weren't sure if you were going to be able to, if the whole event management thing was going to be coming back, you got the law books out and you started studying again and you started working through and genuinely thought, oh shit, am I actually going to go back to being a lawyer? Tell us about that part of your life and the thought of just flipping it all on its head and getting back into law.
Yeah, well, I studied law, left high school, interested in, debating and reading and writing, and a natural progression was to study law, and applied for university in Otago and did my studies, and it was, wasn't necessarily passionate about it, but towards the end of my degree, I came up with the idea for Rhythm and Vines, and I was spending more time in lectures thinking about that. Enjoyed some aspects of the study around competition law and contract law, and not so much the kind of criminal and the property side of things, but I was starting to think how I could use my training to maybe become an entrepreneur or build a business, and some really good skills from that training, negotiation and contract and dealing with people. And I think having the confidence to follow your ideas was something that I really took from the course, was have a crack, lean on people to help build your idea. Don't be scared to ask, but have the confidence to go into negotiation. Found myself with a new startup festival. It was almost just a summer project at that stage, but having the legal background was, encouraged to maybe get a real job. And I thought at the time it's better to maybe solve your own problems than solving other people's problems. It was kind of my thought, was like, well, I can spend a career giving advice and consulting and being a lawyer, or I could have a crack at my own passions and fix my own problems as I go. So, that's really what drove me into helping, encouraged to build the Rhythm and Vines business into something more than just a summer project. And then, here we were kind of 18 or so years later, hitting lockdown, and gave me a breath. It gave, I think, everyone a breath to stop and think about where they're at with their career. And given the events industry was on hold, and who knew what was going to be happening with mass gatherings, maybe it was a chance to go back to my studies and think about becoming more of a consultant in the legal areas, maybe in the music space or entertainment, and passing on some of my knowledge and contacts to that next generation coming through. So I guess you got to always be prepared for the next step.
Did that flicker of a flame sort of die out as soon as events were back on the table? Was it as quick as, fuck that, I'm back into events again?
I've always got that there, I think. I think as you get a bit older and a bit wiser, maybe it's a chance to give back and become more of a consultant. And I guess that's what a lot of lawyers are, aren't they? They're giving advice. It's not necessarily their risk or their idea, but they're just in the background to support people on their projects. So, I've been really fortunate that this project's been a big success, and I've taken, some necessary risks and put energy into this project. But there will become a point where I may be time to step back and become more of an advisor, whether that's as a lawyer or not, but as a potentially, a mentor or director for the next generation of creatives coming through.
I'm going to start painting the picture now. We did an episode where people send in things that annoy them, and one of them is when I say I'm going to paint a picture.
Just familiar language that we use almost in every episode, which we fall into the trap straight away.
I want to pick up the story from life at Otago Uni. So you're in your third year of studying law, a budding musician, living in a flat with two of your best mates, one of whom has an incredible family estate in Gisborne, which you think could be an epic concert venue. So your mate's dad, Dean, flies you all out to check it out. Well, tries to fly you all out to check it out. So pick up the story from here.
So we had this idea to get all our mates together. We thought it would be the end of our lives leaving Otago. Oh, we'd never see these people again. We better have this big
As
one.
we walk on.
Exactly. The trouble is we haven't been able to get rid of each other. It's a small country. So we thought, let's get this party going to have our big final farewell, and everyone can head off to the real world and do their own thing. So Tom and I put it on ourselves to think about a location. We thought about places like Wanaka, Nelson. I'm from Hawke's Bay. And then Andrew, my flatmate at the time, on his wall he had a photo of the amphitheatre that his dad had created in Gisborne. And Andrew's a pretty enthusiastic entrepreneur himself, and he said, write to Dean. Dean will get right behind it. So
Dean being his dad.
Dean being his father. So we try to sell him on the premise that, we'd all buy his wine and help promote the venue. But Dean saw the vision as well. And next thing you know, we're up on a plane to Gisborne in the middle of winter. So this is 6 months out from New Year's, with this opportunity to pitch to Dean about our idea. We still didn't have a name. We didn't know first steps with, getting funding or how we would go about it. But on that flight to Gisborne, we came up with the name Rhythm and Vines through working through some concepts of music and the location. And
it's amazing what a hangover can do for the creative juices. Because did you miss the original flight that was booked?
We did, and Andrew was very generous. He'd bought those flights for us to Gisborne. It was after one of those infamous nights at the Captain Cook Hotel. So I remember going around to Tom's, shaking him out of bed. We made our way to that airport in Dunedin, which is miles out of town. And so the first step in our journey was a hurdle by our own doing. And Andrew and Dean were generous enough to get us back on the next flight to Gisborne.
Was Andrew already up there?
Andrew was already up there.
Oh, shit.
You sort of brushed over the name of it. I mean, it's such a famous name now. Does one of you secretly know? Oh, actually, I came. You're saying it was kind of like a group thing, but was one of you like, well, it was actually me?
It was process of elimination. I like to think I added the musical element. We went through names like bass, melody, treble, rhythm. So we had a list of those names on the side, and then we were talking about obviously the vineyard setting, which seems quite token today about all these vineyard parties, but back in the day there was just the Mission concert, which I grew up with in Napier, which was really contemporary, and it was for your parents, and it was Beach Boys and Doobie Brothers, and it was really quite dated. And I remember going to those concerts saying, man, it'd be cool if we had our own heroes like Sublime or Pearl Jam, or why do we have to listen to this wharirari music? So Rhythm and Vines was like, let's do something trendy that's young and cool for us. The Vines element sounds obvious now, but that was coupled with this rhythm, and Rhythm and Vines was born. And at the time, there was this burgeoning music scene across the country, mainly out of Wellington, with the dub music and the horns. And there was this band called the WBC who ended up playing the first festival, and they had a great clip on TV with them in the vineyard playing with the horns, and we're like, that's exactly what we're trying to achieve. So they were booked. The Black Seeds were booked. And it was a time when, there was the Exponents and Dave Dobbin and a little bit of pop punk, Zed, and it was a pretty cheesy kind of scene. But these bands coming out of Wellington, and in the coming years, the Fat Freddy's Drops and
was that like Rhombus? Was that?
And Rhombus, yeah. Concord Dawn, Minwee. There was a great movement of independent music. No one really promoting it. So we were able to bundle up that whole scene over those first few years of Rhythm and Vines.
Just pause there. How old are you?
I was 21.
That's so cool. That's so cool to think, like, what were you doing at 21?
in America.
Yeah, I was just sinking piss in
Drinking
the outback.
Keystone Light.
Yeah, exactly right. Not putting together a festival and a massive party like that. Amazing.
Yeah, thank you. We had that experience doing the Captain Cook nights, so bit of a taste of promoting. So it was, putting posters up around town and booking bands and negotiating with the venue and getting writers, and I was loving that side of the industry. And so when it came to organising this party, we didn't know much about the bigger event management and getting consents, but we knew about getting people excited, and we knew what our vision was, and it was that blind optimism and young naivety that led us to encouraging people like Dean Witters and my father Ross to help mentor us and help steer us in the right direction to kind of getting our dream off the ground.
Being personable, communicating and engaging with the community, like, it would be such a different set of skills to start this thing now in the age of social media. Like, this is pre-social media, so you're actually having to go and, like you say, talk to people.
Yep.
I'm just thinking about that as you're saying it. Like, it's such a different skill set, right?
Oh, there were some pretty crude marketing ideas we had when you think back now, because you're right, it was the days before social media. So we had these long-winded, well, they weren't long-winded, they were quite specific emails getting people excited about Rhythm and Vines that were sent around the country. And it might have been before your time, but it was, when there's just like address after address.
Oh,
after
yeah.
Forward. They must be porn
They were
ones.
mostly porno ones. Yeah, that one that Tink sent.
Yeah. Keep getting it. Yeah.
So they,
I just remember opening it up in the labs at Waikato Uni and being like, oh shit,
It would take a while to load as well. It would sort of slowly come through.
like chocolate milkshake or something
Anyway,
like this.
these are different
yeah.
emails.
so they were bouncing around New Zealand, and then we wrote a list of people in different parts of the country, at Massey University or at Auckland, and we'd send them a bunch of flyers to hand out around their campuses. And probably the most effective marketing was we got 30 odd people from different social groups around campus. We got them to Gardy's one night. We shouted a couple of crates. This is when crates were, I think they were $40 for a crate of Spates. Yeah. And Tom and I got up on the table and we told everyone about our vision. New Year's Gisborne, get your schoolmates, get your friends around uni, let's all go to Gisborne for this big hurrah. And we showed them the photos, and we were enthusiastic, and we had a vision, and I guess we were good at conveying it as well.
Is that pissed up you doing that?
Yeah,
like 21-year-old, full of piss and
I was thinking
vigor.
like Dead Poets Society, like, oh, Captain, my Captain! Like, everyone's, I'm booking the tickets now! And then having to wait the next day to go down to the travel agent when it opened because there wasn't any internet shit then.
Or was that just you? Was that your personality?
Oh, yeah, we weren't. I mean, we weren't hammered, but it was a social time, wasn't it, 21? And, I mean, there was a lot of people saying, this is a pipe dream? Is this a myth? But you got to remember, these days, there wasn't that much to do for New Year's, and that was one of the reasons we put our hands up to start this thing, because people used to go to Sydney. There was the odd little scene in Taupo. There was those riots in Whangamata.
Oh, yeah.
But there was no central place for young Kiwis to go. So when we put our hands up and said, here's the vineyard, here's the bands, buy your tickets, people just jumped at it.
And how's the feeling the night before that first gig? Are you full of nerves? Did you get much sleep?
It was, well, that's another part of the story. We had this hellish rain probably on the 29th of December, and all our friends and all the people had arrived in Gisborne, and it was honestly like a cyclone. People were bunkered down at different farmhouses and campgrounds, and word was getting around, like, was this thing going to even go ahead? And I remember Dean Witters wanted to pull it. He was saying, let's cancel. And Andrew and Tom and I were just so almost scared with, the social fallout of not being able to deliver this festival. We kind of bullied Dean and said, we're not cancelling, let's hold on. And sure enough, the next day the sun came out, we got the Lions Club in there with the wood chips, filled all the holes, the mud. It was just all hands on deck the night before to actually get the venue ready. And then sure enough, the day of the 31st, blue sky, magic. And you think back to those days where if life had taken a different turn and that rain had come in and we had cancelled, we wouldn't have the history and the magic that we have today. But we had a good run of fine weather. People got to experience everything about Gisborne, and Rhythm and Vines was able to flourish.
Was it as simple as the day after that success with the nice weather and it all went well, you're sitting back and you're thinking, that was pretty cool, we got to do that again?
Yeah, it was. And it probably wasn't as successful as we had thought. We had a cash bar, we had backpackers working, money went missing. Different expenses came in at the last minute, and when we cashed up after that first event, we were actually 20 grand in the hole. Wow. So that was a real kick in the guts for what Tom and I had thought was a really successful project, And but it gave us that encouragement to have another crack.
Who eats that 20K between uni students? Or the dean?
Well, that was why we were great to have Dean funding us. But our name was associated with the debt, so we were we I guess had
course-related costs
to go through with it. Yeah. But then we took the next leap. So the next year we booked Salmonella Dub, and they were a pretty popular band, certainly in the South Island. But that was a sizable fee to commit them, and the risk just kept. We were kind of already in deep then, but the recipe and the concept was so good that we knew that everyone would come back the next year with a couple of friends in tow. And sure enough, year 2 we had 5,000 people, so it just showed that we were onto something special.
Did you go back to uni after year 1? So
Yeah,
year 1 finishes 1st of January 2004, you wake up, everyone's feeling good, you go to the bakery, grab some pies, share some war stories, think about moving back to the flat in March, I imagine, to start up O Week again.
Yep.
And then are you just studying but also thinking, fuck, how can we make this thing bigger and better? How do we build on the snowball? How do we make it?
Exactly. And I think that's when the law degree started to kind of get put aside because, I was leaving lectures to go and ring Red Bull or have coffees with Shapeshifter if they're in town or, and it's anyone that's had a wild idea and you get a bit of momentum, it's quite, intoxicating. So, but we also had the runs on the board. We could prove that we could pull off these events. Everyone had a ball and we could, we had collateral to show people, whether it be sponsors. And the next year we started to get Red Bull on board and, Export was some of the first partners as well. And people started to believe in our vision and things like that just snowball.
Do you deliberately use cricket analogy in the way you talk a lot of the time? Because I've picked it up.
I do.
You do, eh? Yeah, runs on the board.
Runs on the board, stay in your crease and just take each ball as it comes.
Yeah, exactly. Waiheke Island's opening the batting for New Zealand summer was one of your Instagram posts. You definitely do, eh? You fucking knew it. I knew that.
In this little group of you're becoming businessmen, right? You're 21, like you're learning all of these skills at once. Did you each have different strengths, or did you divide up the different parts of running the operation?
Well, Tom and I driving it, we probably had complementary skills. I was probably more music focused, dealing with bands, booking them, booking the production, getting the writers organised, thinking about the flow of the music. Tom is a really good people's person. He's very creative, and he was more a marketer, I guess, as well. And he was another enthusiastic salesman to encourage all our friends to join us. Andrew's very astute. He's very practical. He could work the land. He could work his dad and be that Gisborne liaison. So between the three of us, we did have quite a unique skill set. But as we grew, we soon learned we needed those event managers, to help us. And we had a local lady come on board in the first few years to help, with that detail and, those critical paths and bringing the actual pipeline of delivery together. But, even to this day, we've got a really wide team of different skill sets that all add to the recipe. So it's certainly not just one person that pulls it together.
Firefest is an amazing documentary to watch back as an event person.
Yep.
Did you watch that back and think back to the first few years of R&V and go, man, that was... I didn't have to suck dick for water, but I was close to those kind of situations.
Well, I mean, they had a great idea. I mean, it's still a fantastic idea. That vision they were selling was shit. I'd buy a ticket. But the implementation, and they had a bit of bad luck as well. Like we had good luck. We had good weather. We had good momentum. We were able to get off the ground that first year, and the next year we had good luck. And so I think we had a different journey from them, but I think they were too careless. They took too big a risk. A lot of ego involved as well. They weren't realistic, and as a result, their concept didn't perform.
But do you look back now at some of those and think, man, we were pretty cowboy when we were starting out in terms of what we were doing, or was it always a pretty tight operation because of the support that you brought in from outside? Oh
no, we lots of holes and lots of learnings. We ran out of water one year.
Someone had to get sucking.
We had glass bottles instead of cans, and there was people getting cut. We've had power cuts. Nothing in events is ever certain, is it? So it's just mitigating those risks and having good people around you to help deliver these big projects. And it's still in every big project today. Look at FIFA. Look at other big events in this country. There's a lot of good minds working on these things to ensure that that nothing slips through the gap.
Connect this timeline up for me. When you had the first gig to when you went full-time, that was your full-time job. And in the middle there, were you a lawyer in Levin? In the notes, like he was a lawyer in Levin for a little bit. Where did that come into play?
So my mother's family's from Levin, and my uncle is an accountant there, and he got me some work experience. And I think my parents they could see my passion for this project, and they were certainly very supportive, but they thought, make sure you get a bit of backing for your career. So I did some work experience in my university holidays at a firm in Levin. And they actually, after my profs, I did my bar exam in Wellington, they actually gave me a job, and I considered it. Didn't really want to live in Levin, but I did like the idea of getting some legal experience, but travel was calling, so I booked a ticket to the US and to Europe, and that's when a bit of a gap year. I got to see some leading festivals in the UK, Ziggit, V Festival, and these projects, or these festivals and lifestyles were just huge news, and we had nothing like that in New Zealand, and that's gave me the confidence to say maybe Rhythm and Vines could become that for New Zealand. It could be our festival that everyone talks about and everyone gets excited about and breaks all these bands. And we had the bones, we had the vision, we had the brand, we had a little bit of a following. So I came back from that gap year OE with a whole new swing in my step to say, put the legal career aside, let's go hundies on this idea. And it's not going to be easy, but every day if you can do a little bit more hustle or have that extra coffee or get that one more bit of advice that could help build the project, then it's a lot more productive than being a lawyer on the clock.
And I guess we're talking 22, 23, 24, you've got no real responsibilities, you don't need a lot of money, so it's kind of like you can live off the smell of an oily rag and just invest whatever you do have into the business, right?
Yeah. And it was a confusing time. Other friends were getting more structured lifestyles with legal careers or working for banks. And, I think my parents and peer group were a little bit confused about what I was trying to do. But I think you do need a couple of years out of the loop to get these ideas off the ground. And it would be going to Sydney and meeting the touring agents over there and working out how we can, be part of their touring schedule, or it would be, being down in Gisborne on site, working out how we're going to set up the camping, or meeting with council, or having a coffee in Ponsonby with, Shapeshifter. Or so every day you've got to work on your passion and be 100% committed. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
Is this so? When did you stake a claim in the ground that I am full time in this? Was it 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
Well, I've always been full time commitment at it, but it was probably moved to Auckland. Probably into the fourth year. So we had couple of years at university and then a gap year, and then I was like, I really got to commit to this, so moved to Auckland and started building a team to help turn this into a full-time business.
The story, we watched the brilliant Herald documentary on Rhythm and Vines in the last few days. It's really well done. I'd recommend going watching it. And it tells the story really well, and there's a few highs and lows, and I think it's around 2006, sort of beginning of this journey, when Dean Widders, who we talked about, went into receivership, and a lot of people lost a lot of money, and there was a lot of stress involved there. It certainly came across in the documentary. There was a lot said. It looked like there was a lot unsaid, but it was really intriguing. Reflecting back on that now, what was that situation, and how do you reflect on it?
It was a really tough time for myself and the family. Tom had left. He'd headed overseas and left the business. So it was myself and the Widders family. And so I was this kind of, cog in the machine, I guess, with what was happening with their family business. And Dean had overstretched himself with a number of businesses, and it was coming home to roost. As it turns out, Rhythm and Vines was probably the one business in his empire that was actually succeeding. We had, high turnover of tickets. We were starting to make some money, but his other ventures weren't. So when the receivers came in, they came for our business. They came for the venue. It was in a family trust. Luckily, that was spared from the receivers, and we were able to keep that as a working vineyard and a potential event centre that it's become. And Andrew and I picked up the pieces of the festival and were able to kind of trade through that time, which was really a really tough time because Dean had his commitments with the local contractors to help build the venue, but they weren't associated with our business directly. So although we were finding it hard to operate in that scenario, it was Dean's issue. He had to go through that process, and as a result, went into receivership. Andrew and I, we were down there working with the creditors, working with the receivers to make sure that our part of the pie was able to trade through that. And it was a really risky time, and we kind of came out in the coming years with Andrew and Scott, his brother, and myself driving the business forward.
Was the popularity of R&V growing at the same time that the behind-the-scenes turmoil was happening?
Yeah, no one would have known, apart from the local contractors who, it's been tough for them. A lot of these guys, someone built a 2K fence around the venue and only got paid 20 cents in the dollar. So you can imagine some of those contractors, local electricians, local plumbers that were involved with the festival that, weren't able to be paid by the venue. But we were quite clear at the time that we were a promotions business. We were just leasing the venue for our festival. So it was Dean's business issues that he had to deal with. And we just had to stand aside to make sure that we could continue the festival. But you were right, we were hitting our straps. This is when the dub scene was at its peak. We were able to group together some of those leading bands. They're household names now, but at the time, acts like Cora and Shapeshifter and Cornerstone Roots, to bring all those bands together in one location was groundbreaking at the time. And I remember signing Fat Freddy's Drop, who had just announced and released their debut album. By the end of the year, they were the darlings of the music industry, and we had them booked for New Year's Eve, and that was a real moment for the festival. We were able to sell 10,000 tickets. We had the hottest band in the country, and I remember that year was, really, really special. We had the All Blacks were there. They'd just beaten the Lions. Dan Carter was the toast of the country, was hanging off the stage during Fat Freddy's Drop set. We had Holly Smith there. It was the Outrageous Fortune actors were all there. It was a real moment for New Zealand, and Rhythm and Vines was part of that, and we were able to build from there.
You seem like a really humble, normal guy. When this thing is building, and I think 2008 it became 3-day, in 2010 you sold out for the first time, and you've got all these celebs, and you're in a real position of power. Did it go to your head? Like, looking back, did you keep under control during those times?
I think so. I think I've been reasonably grounded. I've got a great support network. My family's always kept me pretty grounded, and good group of friends, and the team. I guess probably where we've overstretched ourselves is, trying to get too big too fast. But everything was calculated. We went to a 3-day model because we needed to get access to international talent. We needed to pivot and become more than just a local Kiwi festival. We'd had Shapeshifter, There was only one way to go, and that was international talent. To get that international talent, we needed to move to the 29th. And the other reason was everyone was in Gisborne for the week. They were almost twiddling their thumbs waiting around for New Year's Eve. So we thought, let's open the gates early and bring everyone out on site on the 29th. We'll get some international talent. And we were able to secure acts like Franz Ferdinand and the Kooks and Public Enemy. And everyone was like, what the hell? Rhythm and Vines isn't it this Kiwi dub thing for one day? How are we going to survive 3 days of this? And apparently they got Public Enemy coming and Carl Cox. And the first year it took a while for everyone to get their head around what we were trying to achieve. And there was a bit of chatter in the industry, these guys are too big for their boots, and what are they trying to achieve? But we did have, our rhyme and reason and our vision. So that first year of the 3-day model, we only sold 16,000 tickets. And then the next year we only sold 18,000. And then finally on the third year, we sold out 25,000. People understood our vision. We were able to bring in acts like Tiny Temper and NERD, and Carl Cox came back, and we were on the map. And everyone was like, oh, I get this 3-day concert now. I know what you're trying to achieve.
Because timestamp it for me, Big Day Out, was that when it was tapering off, around that same time that you were on the come up?
Yeah, well, there was, at one year, I think we had a bigger lineup than the Big Day Out.
But it was essentially, that was the same time of year. Like you guys obviously were New Year's, but Big Day Out was January, February, right? So it was kind of in that same space?
It was, yeah. And we weren't trying to compete with the Big Day Out. We were quite, we were that road trip to Gisborne, we were that camping model. It's quite distinctly different, and I'm a huge fan of the Big Day Out, and I used to go every year, but that was the one thing to do in New Zealand, wasn't it? To get the access to the international talent, and to see Fatboy Slim in the Boiler Room, or to see Jack White or the Kings of Leon. The rest of the year you're waiting around, just going to Concord Dawn or Tiki Tane, and look, it was fantastic. The Kiwi music was at its peak, but there was no opportunity to see offshore acts in the country. So Rhythm and Vines took that lead, and we were able to bring some fantastic talent those first few years. A lot of the Kiwi bands, a lot of the Australian acts as well, Cut Copy and Miami Horror and the Presets, and bringing those acts to New Zealand in a festival setting was groundbreaking at the time, and we achieved something that no one else had.
When you've grown this baby, and 2010, the first time you sell out, and your biggest headliner is playing, do you have like a ritual with the other founders, or like is there a moment where you go and you just like be present in the moment of what you've created?
Yeah, probably at the end of the festival. We've had a few classic kind of kick-on sessions on the Vine stage. Our friends have DJ'd and all the staff get together and pat each other on the back. Obviously, midnight on the 31st is a real special occasion, and especially now we do the countdown video, which is a reflective look on the year that's been. And
whose idea was that?
One of the young guys who works for us, Josh Smith, he helped promote that, but we'd seen it being done in New York. I think the Skrillex and Diplo did something at Madison Square Garden, so that was all part of our rebirth, and like, let's make New Year's more of a occasion. And so the bands finish at 15 minutes to midnight, and the scene's set, and you grab a drink and grab your friends and
look for a pash.
Yeah. And it's become a really iconic part of the festival. I mean, it's the first place in the world to bring in the midnight, and if we can do justice through that ceremony, that's all part of it.
I don't know if you remember, Steve, we got videos from our friend Joel, who was down at Rhythm and Vines this year, about how amazing that kind of particular part of it is. I imagine the cell phone signals get jammed out of Gisborne at that time of year, or at that particular moment. And that's what you want, right? You want everything to shit itself because it's such a good time.
It is. And, well, people have got their cell phones in their pocket because they were following this journey of the year that's been. And the Radlab guys and Ben Loader does a fantastic job editing it. And it's, a real reflection of the year, the highs and lows, some of the passings of the memorable moments, the World Cups. And then it ramps up to the countdown. And I mean, that's the reason everyone's there, after all, to celebrate that moment. So let's do it well. Let's not have it as a passing comment and then the fireworks go off, and it's a great time to celebrate with your friends, and then the festival kicks on for a few more hours till the sun rise. And yeah, as I said, that's probably a time when you can reflect and get together some of the people that have helped build the event and pat ourselves on the back and say we did it for another year.
Because are you in a constant state of stress or anxiety as it's happening? Like, what is your job when when Rhythm and Vines is actually going on?
No, I'm reasonably hands off at that time of year. My role's now, driving the music bookings and direction, and a lot of that is happening at this time of year. It's the negotiation with the agents, it's the contracting, it's the securing of the talent, and driving the creative direction of where we're going. So by New Year's, there's not that much work to be done in that regard. So yeah, I'm kind of off tools in terms of event management, but there's still hosting to be done, there's still getting around talking to everyone, there's certainly seeing all the music acts you can, and making a plan for the future years, or working out who's got a good crowd. There's enjoying yourself as well. Why would you spend all year working on these projects if you're going to be locked in a porta cabin, grumpy, tired and stressed? So I make a real point of soaking it up, enjoying it, having fun, learning as much as I can about the product, getting around talking to people, so then we can build it the following year.
You're right. You haven't worked out for the last 6 months to not have a chance to take the shirt off, right?
I love that answer. That's so good. I worried that you would just be so worried about things going wrong, but I guess over time, with experience, you learn to take
And we've got a great team, and they're far more experienced and professional in event management than I would ever be. So it's we've got a great ops team, we've got a great first aid team that deals with authorities and security and the bar staff, and everyone's working really hard in their respective areas. It's just my part is the work's been done.
So to contrast that, like I said, there's been ups and downs, and there's been some really rocky moments. Do you remember exactly where you were in 2014 when you heard that there was an incident and that there was some problems?
So we were on site for the final night of the festival, and word started murmuring through some of the senior management about issues down at B-Dub Campgrounds, which is a separately run business. It was an accommodation provider for the Rhythm and Vines punters that we used to entertain at Waihaka Estate. And each night they'd leave our event and go back to the campground. We worked in tandem with the festival because they were all the same punters, but it was run quite separately. and a culture had developed down at the beach that was slightly unbecoming for the level we wanted to be at with the entertainment. So kids would go down there. It was a BYO culture. They had a lot of time on their hands. They were perhaps kind of cramped up together. By day 5 of that particular year, I think a few shenanigans took place, slightly blown out in the media, but the authorities came in nonetheless, pretty heavy-handed, and the kids responded in kind. So word had got around that evening that there'd been some trouble down there. Kids had been arrested, bottles had been thrown, fires had been lit, and it wasn't till the next day, in the light of day, that the media got hold of it, and we knew that the concept down there needed to change if we were to continue.
And they were separate, but the tar stuck, right? It was basically R&V's. This situation in Gisborne is a problem.
Exactly. People going to Gisborne for Rhythm and Vines are now causing trouble, and it was a catalyst for change. The model was broken. There's not many festivals in the world where the accommodation's 15-minute drive from the actual entertainment. Most of these bigger concepts like Glastonbury, like Coachella, people are staying on site, being entertained on site, being watered and fed, and all under the same license and under the same entity. So to have these two competing yet complementary businesses in the same town run at different levels with different staff was never going to last. We're lucky we lasted as long as we did.
Yeah, also run by mates, right? Like, how hard was it to smooth that relationship when there was so much complexity going on about the futures of both endeavours? Yeah,
well, that was the friction that had, started to appear. And I remember the day Andrew said, let's do camping at Rhythm and Vines, but I was a concert promoter at that stage trying to organise a party. I had no thoughts about multiple days and camping, and with that comes showers and how do you feed people, and we didn't want anything to do with it. We said, we'll run the party. We don't want to do the accommodation. So Beat Up Campgrounds was created down at the beach, which, was a fantastic concept for young New Zealanders, and people still talk about it fondly. It was a real basic concept. Grab your mates, grab a tent, box of beers, and have a Kiwi summer holiday, which is, you're right.
Well, it still happens now, right?
Exactly.
It's just not branded something. It's you go to any campground over summer and there's kids enjoying themselves, funneling up and just having a good time.
Yeah, there were some halcyon days, but 5 days was probably too much for a lot of these people. They'd come in on the 27th, get stuck into their work. Rhythm and Vines didn't start till the 29th. So that's a big 5-day window of, twiddling your thumbs down at the beach, but a lot of binge drinking, a lot of, shenanigans going on. So that was a catalyst for change after 2014. We brought everyone back to Rhythm and Vines. We created this new dawn, which was a new look and feel for the festival, trying to get rid of that binge drinking, spring break, bikini comp kind of culture that had slowly crept up on the whole Gisborne experience, and get back to a more sophisticated European style festival with beer gardens, with entertainment during the day, the comedy. We had some motocross. We had, different forms of entertainment, some fantastic, nice food people could enjoy. We had shade structures, and we tried to make it more of a festival experience, not about the drinking, but about the enjoying Rhythm and Vines.
Did it hit?
It did.
Straight away?
Yeah, well, people were at first saying, Rhythm and Vines has changed, and we're like, good, yes, we have changed for the better. And we didn't want to, knock the nut with a sledgehammer, so to speak, with...
Is that a cricket phrase?
Could be.
We didn't want to pull the rug from these kids and say, no BYO. We had to really integrate this beer garden culture into the Kiwi psyche. They were like, can I not bring my 24 double brown into the campground? No, you can't, but we got $6 beers. At one stage we did $3 beers in the afternoon. The media got hold of it and said, you're selling beer cheaper than water, but better than drinking on site under our license than a bowl of vodka down at the beach.
Yeah.
So this beer garden culture slowly crept in, and people were like, okay, I can drink here. It's not going to blow my budget completely, but it's better than buying double brown box down at the shops. And ever since we've got rid of BIO, we can run the bars effectively. It's a lot better for the business going forward, and we're under all the consents that we need to, and health and safety, and working with our beverage partners to create a safe drinking environment.
It did work out well in the end, But how close did it come to falling over? You talked about like the media got a hold of it. There was a lot of heat on you guys. Did it come close to ending?
It came really close. And at one stage we did decide to collectively end the business. We had a number of creditors. We had this drinking culture that was out of control. We had the health and safety laws changed as well, so all directors were going to be liable for any incidents that happened on site. And I remember Peter Jackson had even stepped back from his production companies because there's just so much liability. And the Mangatu company, the Maori landowners that we work with, they were going to be liable for some of any incident that happened on their land, and the authorities were coming down hard on the drinking culture. We started to have some competition in Tauranga with some New Year's shows. We were at rock bottom, really, 2015. But
was that financially as well?
Financially, we were in quite a bit of strife. We'd overextended on the number of years leading up to that with artist budgets, with running projects in the South Island, with just, I guess, the wear and tear of running these businesses. We had a full-time staff, probably 10 staff, working at an office here in Auckland. The economies were just out. We didn't have a good handle on our product. The drinking culture was a big issue, but also no one was drinking at the event either. There was, I think, only $20 spent, so they were going back to the campsites to drink. So the whole thing was needed a full rebirth, and that's when we came up with the New Dawn, and we communicated effectively 10 new things about Rhythm and Vines that we're going to make it smaller, we're going to make it safer, make it more professional. We wanted parents to have trust in us to look after their kids over that period, not get thrown in the paddy wagon like they'd seen on TV. And we got back to our roots, and we had a smaller festival that year. We brought in some new acts like Angus and Julia Stone and Dave Dobbin, and it wasn't about the rave or the party, it was just about enjoying the experience. And we only sold about 10,000 or so tickets that year, but we were able to rebuild the festival with a new direction that has lasted us through to today.
So how did you turn that corner when you're all collectively deciding it's done to rebuilding? Like, who drove that?
Well, at one stage I was the only director carrying the can. My business partners stepped back. There was too much risk involved. We were already getting called by creditors. The liabilities were huge, but the only way through was really to trade our way out. And we had Kieran, our CEO, who's still with us today, fantastic leader, professional, helping manage the creditors. They were baying for blood, but we had to bring them along for the ride and say, look, if you want to get paid, if you want to get paid the next 5 years and keep this festival going, then you need to support our vision going forward. And we had some really fantastic support from the industry, some lenient payment terms. We were able to trade our way out of our hole, and it took us a year or two, but that was some of the darkest days, but also some of the most rewarding as well. I think when you're that low, you've only got one way, which is to fight yourself out. And life was quite simple because it was just, let's focus on this product, let's get it right. And it took a year or two, but we soon hit our straps again.
When did you start introducing things like the VIP concept? When did that come in as part of that New Dawn, or was that already established prior to that? We've
always done the Vintage Club, which was, again, for people that have been to the festival for a few years, a little bit older and wiser and wanting some creature comforts. So that's always been a big part of the festival. But again, it was part of the New Dawn. Let's look after those VIPs. Let's look after the Gisborne community as well. So we used to offer, pre-drinks for them and free buses into town and things like that to help win the locals over again. And, we wanted to offer that premium experience and champagne at midnight. And I think that still rings true. We've got about 3,000 people in our Vintage Club now, and you guys would fit right in. We've got the All Blacks are all there. The Chiefs boys love it. They're always good supporters.
We're in. Sounds like an invite.
Sounds like we're in.
And you can watch. You can watch from the side of the stage. We've got TV screens to enjoy the action, and you're under the vines. You're on a daybed. Fizzy cocktail. It's it's a really premium environment.
Are there tiers to that? Can you go above Vintage? Is there anything like that you don't speak about? There's a secret handshake to get into like the exclusive club?
We have talked about festivals overseas have those backstage areas where you can be around the artists and but we've got quite a unique proposition with the big house, the homestead at Waiheke, where the artists are hosted, and that's their green rooms, and they're up in the bedrooms, and they've got looking out over the vineyard, and that's a space that we keep private for them. But out in front of the house on the lawn. We've done some activations with our partners. Pernod Ricard set that up like a mum lounge, and again, champagne and sitting on the beanbag. And yeah, there's so many cool nooks and crannies now to go and enjoy the festival, whether you're watching the indie band in the garden stage or letting your hair down in the Goose Club, different activations. It's the Powell Zone on top of the hill. You can look out. It's a real wonderland for all young and old.
We're into
selling it. He's selling. I'm hooked.
Yeah.
I'm in. We're start fucking shredding now.
We're into a really exciting part of the episode now. It's headlined here behind the scenes, and there's about 5 yarns here that I want to ask you about, and it's about artists, and it's about the stuff that I'm certainly interested in. Can you tell us first of all about Chance the Rapper? I've heard that he was one of your most memorable artists you've had.
Yeah, Chance, probably still the biggest act we've had, although we've got Central C coming this year, who's hitting his straps as an international artist, and I think he will challenge Chance's mantle as probably the hottest act we've ever had. And it was a great booking. We'd been talking to him for a few years about getting him. This Chicago rapper had a mixtape. He was starting to make waves, but I think we booked him in April that year. By November, he was the hottest thing in the industry. He was at the White House. He was mates with Obama. He'd gone from, just a Chicago rapper to A-list superstar. And with that came all the bells and whistles of hosting these kind of talent. And his agent, I remember, said he'll need a private jet to Gisborne. And we said, I don't think there's private jets in this country,
How many times have you been asked that about a private jet?
And the agent said, that's fine. He just won't turn up at the show. They don't know what pencil planes are. They travel from Las Vegas to Chicago to New York in private jets. So we ran around and provided that. I think there's 3 of these jets in New Zealand that can cater for this kind of talent. He came down. His team took over the whole backstage production. They had their own passes. They took over the house as a private area. We couldn't even get in backstage at one point because they'd changed all the tags.
Seriously?
It became a Chance the Rapper concert.
Wow.
He had 20 of his team in tow, but he put on the best performance. He stayed on for another 20 minutes after the show. He loved it so much. But one of his requests was a cheeseburger with no condiments that he likes to have before he goes on stage. So,
like meat and cheese and bread.
Exactly. No pickles, and he needs it fresh. So one of our team just pinned it to Gisborne McDonald's to have that waiting for him before he went on stage, but it was left untouched in this dressing room. So I think they do that just to show that you're paying attention, you're working at a world-class level.
When you meet someone like that, do you go, hi, Chance? Like, how do you meet the artist?
Mr. Rapper.
Yeah.
I try to get around the artist. I'm probably more attached to the tour manager and the manager or agent. That's more who I'm dealing with. I mean, musicians are there to do their job, and they tend to be in a bit of a zone, and quite private. But he was having the time of his life. I mean, this guy was 22, 23, the toast of the music industry, and on the other side of the world, having people sing his songs back to him, and he just had an absolute ball. As it turns out, he missed his jet flight back to Auckland, and he was found at the airport with all the rest of the dregs and the George FM DJs getting our charter flight, which is this old DC-3 propeller plane back to Auckland. So it was quite humbling for the lad, but probably, the biggest star we've had at the time, and I think Central C this year will compete with that.
Because you talk about pencil plane, Pharrell, did Pharrell come down on a I guess it's Air New Zealand? Correct. Is it one seat on each side?
Yeah.
First time I imagine he's not seen the inside of a private jet.
And it was the days, I think we had a hurricane or a storm, and it was super windy, and his son was on another flight coming down. And Pharrell didn't have the best experience in Gisborne. He was woken up a couple of times by the Edge radio station doing prank calls. So he was pretty salty getting on stage, didn't have much time.
That doesn't help you in your situation, right, when you're getting radio stunts with some of your biggest acts.
No, but it's a great leveller flying into Gisborne. There's...
I guess Gisborne's a good leveller, full stop.
Driving in, flying in. You got to pick your bags off the tractor, and there's kind of tumbleweeds on the airport. And, acts like we had Eric Murillo, who's was a big superstar DJ from Ibiza. He was there coming off the plane with his sunnies on and just popping up in little old Gisborne. It's
Cal Cox in Gisborne, like those sorts of things are phenomenal.
To the riders. So I mean, that one was sort of like a bit of a test, but quite a basic one. You must have heard of some ridiculous stories from riders from big concerts, but have there also been? Yeah, do you have any good stories from them? But also, have there been any other like memorable rider requests from R&B?
We got close with Snoop Dogg one year, and I remember his demands were quite excessive, and a lot of it's just keeping the crew happy. And it's the fried chicken when they come off on stage, and it's they've got all their mates touring with them, and their school friends, the t-shirt guy, and their wife's the.
Do you have to pay for all those people to come?
So our deals are landed in Gisborne, so we'll look after everything on site. We negotiate the accommodation. Often we push back on that because we've got limits in Gisborne, but we'll sort out their transfers and their hospitality on site, and but getting to and from the country is generally their cost. So if they're making more money, they've got more friends in tow. But yeah, I can't remember specifically. I remember Moby was probably one of the more particular artists we've had. He's quite a famous vegan and animal rights activist, and he's quite a precocious kind of guy. And it's often the team around them as well. They have these tour managers that are wrap the artists in cotton wool, and they just don't want anything out of line. So the artist can get grumpy. So our team, Josh and the team who hosts the artists, they work really hard to detail everything. Has to be perfect to ensure that the artist doesn't get grumpy.
On the flip side, are there any artists that you've encountered that are just really down to earth and really normal and really cool?
Yeah, a lot of them, I think. Yeah, Carl Cox he's a legend. He's so humble, such a nice guy. The acts like Netsky and Wilkinson that we've had at the festival, they become family. They know the team, they know the crowd, they know the ins and outs. They've become really good friends of the festival. So, yeah, Kiwi artists, I mean, everyone's so grateful for the experience at Rhythm and Vines, and no one's bigger than the brand. Sounds cliche, but people are there for their New Year's experience. They're not necessarily there to see one act. So artists can't really kind of walk around like it's theirs.
Public Enemy,
you've taken the words out of my mouth.
An amazing group to bring out and just to be responsible for getting them to New Zealand.
Flav and Chuck D.
I've heard there might be a good yarn about the porphyry they received.
Oh, that was a pretty special moment flying them in. And again, they arrived in a charter flight into little old Gisborne Airport, and they poured out. There must have been about 14 of them. And that's a classic case of school friends doing the merch. And, there's Flavor Flav and Chuck D and a group of dancers, but they had all their bros in tow, and they rolled off this plane straight to the cafe, loaded up with pies, chips, Coke. Flavor Flav came up to me wearing his clock, and he's like, "Yo, Hamish!"
Oh, Jay's gone.
So sorry. We're all gone.
He's got him.
Oh, God, sorry. Flavor Flav wearing his clock.
Back in?
Clock in little old Gisborne. He's like, "Yo, Hamish, step into my office." And I'm like, "Where's he talking about?" And he's like pointing outside to his office. So we get in a huddle outside the Gisborne airport. He's like, "Yo, Hamish, I gotta find some weed, bro. I'm gonna fucking die." So the poor guy had probably flown 24 hours from New York without a smoke, and he was at the end of his tether. And I said, "Look, Flav, we don't have time for that. We've got a special porphyry welcome." And we had to herd the crew up like herding cats, getting them on the bus straight to the porphyry to the marae. And it was probably one of the most humbling experiences I've ever been part of. These Brooklyn, gangsters coming off the plane, all bling, all bravado, walking onto that marae and getting that traditional Māori welcome was something so special. And Flavor just dropped his guard completely. Chuck D, who's one of the great lyricists and poets of our time, was able to retort to the warm welcome, and they both said they had never felt such a warm greeting from a country on the other side of the world. So seeing those egos brought down to life in little old Gisborne was something I'll never forget.
Did you get him that weed afterwards? I'm sure Gizzy would have hooked him up there.
We've also got a yarn about, speaking of flights, a group of international artists, I think the flight was cancelled back to Auckland, and they had to be rerouted via Napier and stopped in at your parents' house for a cup of tea and some dress-ups.
Yeah, that's right. One year, 2012, we had Scream and Benga, and this dubstep scene was the toast of the industry, and we had all these scallywags down in Gisborne for New Year's Eve, and they all fly on. We work with field days in Sydney, New Year's Day. They often fly.
Field days in Hamilton. I was thinking, that's an interesting crossover.
Good collab.
They all fly to Sydney on the 1st, but that particular night, flights were cancelled out of Gisborne, and I was getting texts from the promoter in Sydney saying, "Get my artists to Sydney, or the wheels are going to fall off." So we had to again herd these cats and get them in the vans. Ross, my father, had took a load of them. Even Mum was going to step up at one stage. They were just pissed up chooks, driving over the Gisborne Ranges to Napier to get their flight out the next morning. And yeah, Ross and Viv hosted them at our house, so they were having cups of tea and trying on different costumes and having a ball to see in their new year down in Napier.
Heard one of them was put, because your dad's a long-standing, quite prolific copper, and they're put on as police gear.
Yeah, they were having a ball. So it was all, that's rock and roll, isn't it? Dad said they were great company going over the ranges for 2 or 3 hours, drinking in the back. Artists just love it coming to New Zealand. The rolling hills, the hospitality, the audiences are so warm, the people are so warm, and Rhythm and Vines has been able to put on the map, has been able to be, showcased for that reason, and it's something we're really proud of.
It's not just artists and people that can have meltdowns and fail. Have you had any massive logistical or technical issues in the lead up to an R&V?
Yeah, we had the infamous sound desk going over the gorge one year, which was probably not something you want the day before your festival's starting. But anyone that's been through that gorge knows it's quite a treacherous journey, and the truck went over the edge. This must be on the 27th, 2 days before gates open. And it's a pretty important part of the festival, getting that sound system. And Scott, my business partner, was on the news that night saying, no, everything's fine. It's, these road cases are, they're built to withstand this kind of, shake around. And no, we'll be back on track. But they went down the gorge and found the truck and opened the cases, and things were just screwed, like wires everywhere, in no state to be plugged in. So we scrambled around getting another sound system down. Luckily in time, they were still sound checking it as the gates were open. And unfortunately that night we had 2 of the biggest bass acts in the world, Knife Party, Rob Swire, who's one of the producers for Pendulum. His whole sound is based on bass, and Netsky doing his live show. And it was probably the tinniest sound we've ever had at the festival that night. But they pulled a rabbit out of the hat, and were able to, the show went on.
One of the women who works here at the ACC with us heard you speak at a marketing presentation or something maybe a few weeks ago, and said you had some really interesting insights into the turnover at R&V, and that it's sort of 18 to 20, and I might have this wrong, but it's 18 to 21 is kind of like the target demo, but they often sort of go through cycles, and you've got to work really hard to influence or make it cool for that next batch. Is that, if I got that right?
Yeah, we kind of double down on the target market, don't we? So we know that young New Zealander coming out of school, coming out of college, is perfect for doing the road trip to Gisborne, for having the time of their life. A lot of the marketing, a lot of the music is aimed at that audience. That's our core audience. But as I said earlier, I think we don't restrict anyone that wants to come down and enjoy themselves, and we have got different, VIP offerings or different music offerings to cater for a different audience. So, yeah, I think one thing we've done really well is continued to, to reinvent ourselves for that target market. And, no one wants to book bands for themselves when they're entering their 40s, if you're running a music festival. So it's keeping up with the trends on the music front, keeping on the trends with the marketing and social media, and how do we talk to our audience through things like TikTok, and we've got an NFT initiative that we're working on to help add some value to our community as well, and we're always looking for new innovative ideas to keep the brand alive, keep it relevant, because no one wants to be a stale old festival that your brother or your cousin went to.
The last hiccup, I think, on this journey was COVID. And the last thing I want to do is have COVID chat. But it was a really stressful time. We've already talked about you getting the books out and thinking about, training to be a lawyer again and having your world flipped upside down. like, when that all started playing out, how stressed were you? This is your livelihood. This is everything you've worked so hard for. You've done so well to get it back to where it is after everything we've talked about. And now the fear is that you're going to lose it again.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster that time. And I think we're lucky to have such a strong team and strong support from our partners at Live Nation. You know, we were had a bit of direction about how we would approach the potential mandate, how things like vaccine passports would be integrated into events. We were in comms with the ministers. There was a local board set up to help lobby the government about mass events. So everyone came together. So I kind of personally felt there was a lot of support, a lot of communication amongst everyone about what would happen. But it was certainly a harrowing time. There was no roadmap, was there, for what was happening, especially in our industry. And who knew how big how long the tail would go on this thing. So I just turned to some other hobbies, took my mind off the festival for those couple of years in some respects, and we came up with some innovative new ideas that were outside of Rhythm and Vines. We set up the Golden Run, a series of concerts in January. We did some shows at Spark Arena. But probably just having a break from the whole, mass event industry was probably welcomed by a lot of people.
The Live Nation thing you mentioned, has that given you financial security? Like, is that talk about the sale and why you sold?
Yeah, I think it was inevitable that we'd start working with a business like Live Nation, and we poked the bear, so to speak. We encouraged them to come down and see what we were doing. So Live Nation's a successful entertainment company. It's a Fortune 500 company. They've got a portfolio of over 100 festivals around the world, and it was only a matter of time before they came into our region. So it was a great chance to work with them first before they potentially set up competing events or started working with other promoters. And there was a really good open door to the company. They've got a great team in Australia and now in New Zealand. And they've been really supportive of continuing the vision for Rhythm and Vines. They leave us to it. They help us when and where we need it. They've been fantastic with things like partnerships and bringing in collaborations with brands such as Powell's and Steinlager and One New Zealand, and how we can help prop up the festival and promote it. But it's given us sustainability. I think it's a lot more governance around how the business is run, a lot more structure around budgeting and pricing and best practice, I think, to run an entertainment business. And when you come across things like COVID and these big global events, having a big brother behind you to help guide you and give you confidence has been well needed.
Was it a real celebratory moment when you sold 51%? And it's obviously your baby that you've grown to this point.
Of two companies? Of both companies?
Our sister company, Endeavour Live, is now part of Live Nation as well. So we're probably more the creative arm. Live Nation's fantastic at the big blue chip concerts. So Harry Styles, Red Hot Chili Peppers, they bring in those global touring acts. Rhythm and Vines is the festival part of the portfolio, and Endeavour Live, our other business, is probably more creative, regional shows, dance performances. We've done the Fatboy Slim tours and Groove Armada. We like finding new opportunities and taking different risks outside their skill set, and it's been a great partnership. So was it a celebration? It certainly was. I mean, to work with a leading company like Live Nation is just, it's career defining, and it's going to set up Rhythm and Vines for the coming years. It's in good hands. And even last week I was in Melbourne at one of their promoter conferences, and you're meeting like-minded event professionals, and you're finding about the best practice to run events and inside word on where the industry's going. And I think those early years of being an entrepreneur in such a silo, now we're part of this global community, and it's really exciting for an event professional to be part of that.
Was that the thinking behind setting up the Phoenix Summit as well, is to kind of bring creatives from New Zealand together to exchange and share ideas and almost harvest kind of cool ways of bringing events to life?
Yeah, Phoenix Summit's been quite a passion project to establish a network and a community of creatives in New Zealand and provide a open door to the industry. And I think back to when I was starting off with my idea, and doors were relatively closed. There was no forum to attend or no networking events to go to where you could maybe meet the manager of Bik Runga or get access to the big day out, or it was just quite a shot-off industry, and it was a small industry as well. And it took me a trip to South by Southwest in Austin as a young, I think 25-year-old, to suddenly start meeting people and opening my eyes to how inviting people were in the US, and so much you could learn, and you're hearing speakers, and it just felt like a big world that we were blocked off to in New Zealand. So skip forward a few years, I guess I'm trying to set up a conference, networking environment where young creatives with ideas, be it in music or film or fashion, could
podcasts.
Could come to an event where they might get a touch of inspiration, meet someone that can help take their dream forward, and just a collective positive environment.
What does your day-to-day look like? It looks like you've got a bunch of balls in the air at any one time. Cricket?
Yeah, nice.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, nice.
But is there structure to your days, or is it sort of late night emails and phone calls, or like how do you map out a week?
Yeah, I was thinking the other day that it's kind of consistently inconsistent. When you got travel thrown in there as well, trying to keep a routine as a creative entrepreneur is hard. And I was quite inspired listening to Izzy Whitley on your podcast about his lifestyle, and I tried it for a few weeks, and getting up early and doing.
Did you listen to the same song?
No,
every day, all week. Yeah.
But then the Ashes came, and then you're up late watching the Ashes, and then London agents are chasing you for answers, and that's the only time you can speak to them, and then you're trying to get up at 6 a.m. to go to the gym, and so it's just finding a balance, I think. Probably not going out to shows as much as I have in the past, trying to be a little bit more nesting, especially over winter. But in the entertainment industry, it's keeping up with trends. It's making sure you're out supporting the industry and finding new acts, and that's a big part of it as well. But routine, we've got an office in Ponsonby. We've got about 14 who work on our floor on Rhythm and Vines and Endeavour. Everyone works really hard, plays hard. They're available all day and night to work when they're called. It's a seasonal job, so summertime's super busy. It's weekends, it's trips away, it's flights down to Gisborne, it's being away from loved ones over Christmas. It's a real lifestyle and it's real commitment, but everyone's passionate about it, and as we say, it's better than working in a bank. So we're really happy.
To reference former guests, we had Dwayne Dalton on a few episodes ago as well, who spoke to surrounding yourself with good people, and a number of times you've mentioned the team that you have around you. How critical is that? Because you are the face of R&V, but there's a whole team of people behind you that I guess have been there in the initial years around mentorship, and ones now that just do the grunt and put the shoulder to the wheel. Yeah,
it's imperative. And I think having a good idea is about sharing. It's not about keeping it to yourself and trying to do everything. It's about delegating, and it's about sharing the vision. And that's something we've done really well over the years, is not being scared to bring in industry experts in different areas, and whether it's artist hosting or marketing or production, and working with the best. And I think we've all learnt a lot as well as we go, and we've been able to work on this project and now working at a world-class level. But no, we've got a fantastic, senior management team, and some of the youth coming through. We're a youth brand, so it's about, having them included, the young event grads that we take on, listening to them, where they think the event should be going and what new initiatives we could be bringing. So even though we've got a few old hands, KB, who's been there since the start, he's still our, marketing director. He knows the brand inside out, and he's been a really hard worker to bring it to life. We couldn't have got there without him. He's still there. Dan Turner, our festival event manager who delivers the show, he knows that venue like the back of his hands. Knows all the local suppliers, and the production team's been there for a number of years. Kieran, our CEO, has been an integral part of our growth, protecting the business when we're at our weakest, bringing Live Nation on board, and bringing a professional feel to the whole company. So there's a really key team. Dylan, who helps me with the music as well, he's one of the best ears in the world, knows the trends, knows the agents. So fantastic team, and you can't take credit for it just yourself.
How do you keep on top of music trends yourself? Is it just Spotify?
Yeah, we've heard that say about you. You've got a real talent for keeping on top of the trends and knowing what's going to be popular and delivering a good lineup. As you get older, like, is it harder to keep
Are your
cool?
Spotify playlists public? Can we get access to
It
those?
is hard. It's having good people around you. Dylan, who works with me, he teaches me a lot. And what do they say? People that tell you about new music, are good people in your life. You need to keep them around. So having some touch points, people that are sending you stuff or pointing you, hey, check that out. Have you heard about that? But it is my job, so you've got to work at it, follow your nose. We work really closely with the Australian festivals, so people are sharing ideas and you get inspiration from them and opportunities and who's touring, and lucky enough to get around the world and see some artists as well, like going to Austin to South by Southwest, which is like a breeding ground for up-and-coming talent, getting to some festivals in Europe and seeing anyone from the top of the poster down to the bottom, showing an interest in living and breathing the job is all part of it.
Because it's a unique product, right? Because I think you've made your first announcement of acts that are coming, but people are already buying tickets before they actually know who's coming. It's a really interesting kind of sales model.
Yeah, it's something that we've done really well. There's not many festivals in the world that kind of sell out before the lineup's announced, and we had a few years of doing that, and we're already selling half the tickets before the lineup. So it's the age-old debate we have. Do people care about the music? I think people want to come to Rhythm and Vines anyway, but if the product and the music is subpar, they probably won't continue. And you can't get caught in a time warp either. If we were still promoting the same acts from 20 years ago, we'd be pretty dated. You've got to keep up with the trends. And this year we've got acts like Dom Dollar, who's one of the top house acts. We're bringing a house feel to the festival. We've got Crime with Central C. We still have the bass music like Wilkinson and Headaches and the like that is kind of the backbone of the Rhythm and Vine sound, but you've got to keep up with the trends. We've got a couple of new surprises coming, more cutting-edge DJs, new sounds from Europe and Ibiza that New Zealand hasn't heard that are the stars of tomorrow. So it's a real creative part of the job.
So is it the music that's the key part to a festival, or is it the venue, or is it what makes a great festival experience?
It's a recipe, I think, and one that Rhythm and Vines has got. It's a sense of occasion. We're really lucky that we're around New Year's Eve. People are there for a reason. It's not just a random weekend in summer. We might not be having the same success. It was just another event. Maybe that's what happened with the big day out. It was just another weekend to listen to music. But Rhythm and Vines is that New Year's rite of passage, that trip to Gisborne with your mates to let your hair down. The music needs to be fresh and needs to be fun, and the production that goes with it needs to blow people away. You can't have, you need decent bass music, decent bass production. You need the SFX and the lasers that have become what people expect. I mean, they're watching Glastonbury online now. They're watching Tomorrowland. They're watching Coachella. They want a taste of that in their backyard. So we need to have the production on point. And finally, the venue, you say, that is super important. We say Waihaka Estate is our headliner. It's a fantastic venue. The artists rave about it. It's rolling hills set, the amphitheatre set looking over vines. It's world class. There's nothing like it, and people rave about it who attend. And it's something that sets us apart from, say, your muddy racecourse field of other festivals around the world.
Your field days. I've got a few bits and pieces to get through before we wrap up. One of them was Roma told us that on your first date you said that you could have been the original 660 if you hadn't found your. I can't remember what she said after that.
No, as if the bandmates turned up to practice.
Yes,
she put your bandmates on blast.
And I'm not sure if that was a joke or not, or if there was real talent there and you guys could have made it.
Oh, look, I was just the rhythm guitarist, but I had a vision for the band. We had a really good lead singer, smooth, Māori man, super talented, like Matthew. And we used to play at the Captain Cook, like 660, and we loved those reggae numbers. And I had a real vision for our band. I wouldn't have helped put on a show for us to perform at in those early years if I didn't think we had a future. But, timing's everything. And rather than being a musician, it's been great to still be in the industry as a promoter and still being, passionate about the music and playing in my bedroom when I can. But the days of being a rock star have probably passed.
Did you ever release East Coast Toast?
No, we didn't actually.
Maybe you should look at doing that. It's a good tune.
We got sent East Coast Toast. We enjoyed it.
No, we had a few bangers. We did some recording and Yeah, it's a long road to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Hey. Rebranded now, Black and White Dynamite, is that right?
Yeah, well, we've been through the motions as well. We had a folk band called Blackbird, and then we had a rock band through the kind of White Stripes Strokes era, Black White Dynamite. And
what have you landed on now?
Now, well, I haven't been picked up with DJing, so maybe that's at least a win. I'm still playing kind of dad rock in my bedroom, but Neil Young and Dire Straits, and that's probably my niche. A little bit of John Mayer. Acoustic folk is probably my niche.
That's so far from Wilkinson. That's so far from Wilkinson, but I enjoy that.
But again, you don't want to book for yourself. You know,
right.
You got to book for the kids. And like, look, I appreciate drum and bass, but it's a popular sound, and it's, you know, now house music's coming in, grime. There's some fantastic new genres, so it's about appreciating everything and what works for the festival.
Just jumping on drug of choice, interesting. Last year you had the on-site drug testing. Was that for the first time?
Yeah, drug checking it's called now.
Drug checking.
The official term.
Do you know what the uptake was? Do you not want to know what that is? Like, it's such an interesting, because in my mind, festivals and drug taking kind of go hand in hand. Where do you sit on that? I guess the social responsibility side as an event promoter.
Yeah, well, it's probably one question I get asked most by the parents. You know, we've got the drinking culture under control. The drug culture is a new frontier, isn't it? And we've been really supportive of the government initiative to bring drug checking into mass events, and it's been a huge vote of confidence for the government to bring that to the events. We now work with the New Zealand Drug Foundation to test not just drugs that are brought in through the gate and confiscated, but there's a honesty box system where punters can bring their drugs to the check-in, and we can test that. I think we tested around 1,600 samples last year, and if in the case there's something dodgy, we can communicate that out to the audience through our text network or potentially through the media if there's something really serious. But it's starting to give us a gauge, and the punters a gauge on what kind of substances are coming into the festival, and then how we can mitigate those. We provide counselling services as well for those that have taken something that might not be safe. We've got all the authorities there, so it's a new frontier, but one we're really keen and really positive to support.
Forgive my ignorance. Is this an anonymous? You come in and you can just anonymously check your drugs.
Yes, we don't give them back. No, you don't get.
You don't get them back.
No.
Oh, I thought you get them back.
Yeah, I thought you got them back.
These are good to go.
It's just for safety. Make sure they're all good,
right?
And then you're allowed to.
But then presumably you would only put some of what you've got there.
I think that's the intention. It's
right,
and it's peace of mind, I guess.
It's a funny thing to be talking about, right? Because it's like an open, kind of secret as to what happens. It's a good one. I think we need to be front-footing it, and I applaud the organisation for front-footing it as well, and not pretending like it's not a real thing.
No, it is a culture in our industry. We need to acknowledge it, and we need to, how can we address it best we can to ensure the safety of punters?
Yeah, nice.
This question I bet you get asked a lot, as much as the drug one, and I apologise in advance, but I want to know, and I bet you've got a rehearsed answer. Dream guest. Dream artist.
It's normally me to ask the shit question.
Yeah.
Well, there's two.
He's got it written down.
He's got it in the notes. He's got it in the notes.
There is, there's the festival dream artist, which is someone like Skrillex, who has been the bass music pioneer, which is what our sound has been made on. He is now having a new reincarnation as an artist. He's one of the virtuosos of our generation in dance music, and he's someone I've really wanted to work with to bring out to tear a hole in Waiheka.
You think you get him?
Again, we're kind of working with a Kiwi peso, and when an artist is hot like that, it's pretty hard to encourage them to come down. Yeah. But no, we've got the invitation out there, and it'll happen at some stage. But that's just a personal favourite of mine. I'd love to get him out there. His friend that he performs with, Fred again, is probably one of the hottest acts in the industry at the moment. He's someone we'd love to get. He's probably beyond the festival bookings now. He's his own festival. He's one of the top producers, and at some stage in the future, it'll be great to see him at Waiheka. And then I've got my personal favourites, my Eddie Vedders and the like, who, probably not suited to the Rhythm and Vines environment, but it'd be great to continue promoting and bring those kind of acts to New Zealand.
Nice. Those are good answers.
Yeah, very good answers. This is a Hail Mary. I won't tell you where it's come from. Meeting Selena Gomez?
Yeah, I spent a bit of time in LA. I had a bit of a sabbatical after the 10-year anniversary and needed a bit of a break, and spent a summer in LA and crossed paths with her. So that was insightful. We ended up at a house party with some mutual friends, and she was going through rocky time with her partner, Justin, at the time, which she proceeded to tell the whole group about. So it was kind of fly on the wall type thing, and she'd been dating a young English singer called Ed Sheeran, who had wined and dined her and watched Disney movies together, and she was asking all sorts of advice and telling stories about her group of girls, and so that was a bit of a brush with fame over there.
Does celebrity like that impress you now? You've met all the New Zealand celebs and a bunch of the worldwide ones. Does big stars like that, does it even matter anymore to you?
Oh, I think so. I think talent's probably the one thing that you want to be around. Just people that, like Fred again, who's one of the top musicians of our generation. Meeting someone like that, a virtuoso, would surely be intimidating. But sitting here with you guys is an honour.
Nicely said.
Well done.
Nicely done.
A photo on your Instagram which piqued my interest was Dave Chappelle. And have you got some sort of connection to Just for Laughs in Montreal?
Yeah, so my cousin Bruce, he runs Just for Laughs in Montreal. So he is pretty well connected, as you can imagine, in the comedy scene. I don't know his work as well as Roma does, so it was a huge treat for her. He was drunk. He was, it was post-show. He was chilling out. He was very charming, and we shared a moment. We listened to some Radiohead. We shared a couple of tequila shots. He had some photos with us. He was very hospitable for us. It was our wedding anniversary as well. So Bruce had organised that. He was with us, and Bruce, he gets to meet some of the best comedians in the world through his job, and having that connection to Montreal, I went and worked there for him one summer and got a taste of a big brand like Just for Laughs and a big multi-day festival in a city like Montreal, and that certainly gave me some inspiration.
There's some amazing people to be able to call on in your cell phone contact list. My cousin that runs Just for Laughs, man, there's some amazing insights that you've been blessed with.
Yeah, no, he's probably one in the family that's got a similar skill set to me, and who knows what's next. I mean, we go over to London, we get some great access to some of the festivals over there now through Live Nation and through the contacts and agents, and being backstage at Tomorrowland, to hospitality, seeing Prince in LA was something I'll never forget. Being in Berlin, seeing Radiohead play Creep from the side of the stage. There's stuff that you kind of dream about when you're a kid. So
it's a long way from the Guardies.
The Guardies jukebox playing Pearl Jam. So it's been a great journey, and we'll keep throwing these events as long as people keep supporting them.
Man, understatement.
Yeah.
Understatement. Like this everything we've just talked about, from the beginning of an idea to what you've built, and the influence you've had on New Zealand and culture is so cool. Like, you should be so proud of everything you've done.
Mm-hmm.
But what before we do get to the wrap up?
Before you go for this, are you going for
what's next?
Yeah, can I just ask?
Go on. Get in there.
Just while we're in bits and pieces mode. Very, very well watched YouTube clip of mine is Alex getting called on stage at Glastonbury to do AJ Tracy's part. In your opinion, was that a setup?
No.
Wow.
What are you talking about?
It's a real cultural moment. I don't know if I'll do it justice.
You need to explain it to the audience.
Yeah. So there's a clip where, is it Santam Dave?
Dave's the artist.
Yeah, Dave. So Dave's the artist, and he's got a song with AJ Tracy. He's at Glastonbury. So Dave's doing the bit, and he stops for a minute, calls someone out to come up and do AJ Tracy's part, the other part. A bit like you doing Gangster's Paradise.
Okay.
So this kid comes up and, word for word, spits, and also does Dave's part as well. Dave's like, just do AJ's part, and he just does the whole thing together. It's an incredible piece of cultural nuance.
Yeah.
But I always thought, this is a setup. This has got to be a setup. But it's an organic.
No, I think
in your
so,
opinion?
because they point to the crowd. They're trying to find someone that looks like the diehard, passionate fan, and anyone that's up that close is a diehard fan, knows all the lyrics. He's probably seen him a few songs prior, rapping along. He pulled him up on stage, and it's a risk. It could not pull off, but that time it did. The guy's gone global. Apparently, he's his own rapper now called Alex from Glasgow. That's his name, and Dave gave him a break, but. Yeah, I think you'd find that in any mosh pit at any artist, diehard fan.
Wicked. So you wouldn't kind of plant a stunt like that at R&V, for example?
No, we don't really need to. We've had some characters do some things on stage. We get the All Blacks up there. We get Willie Wairua, and he did a big boat race across the crowd in a raft. We had his Uncle Rick up there doing a headstand. We've had...
I thought you were saying a boat race, like you had to line the crowd up. And
That's what I thought too.
Down a vessel like a big Mexican wave of drinks. That would be amazing.
Johnny Danger wanted to do that, but in the end he just had the world's biggest Danger swig, which was 10,000 people kind of necking the beer at the same time. We've had Brad Weber kick rugby balls into the crowd and guest DJ sets. And yeah, we're definitely not scared of a gimmick, but, they're reasonably kind of organic.
Fire away.
Well, two things. First one is 21st coming up. We've spoken a little bit about it, but sell it if you need to. What's cool about it? What are you doing differently?
Everyone has to do a yardie on entry.
Yeah, well, it's going to be the 21st to end all 21sts, we're saying. Where the key, you get your key when you turn 21. Perhaps in our era, it was what you did. And so that's our theme for the year. So we're unlocking the Rhythm and Vines experience and demystifying it for those that haven't been. And
man, he's speaking to us.
As I said, you can't put a price on the time of your life, and that's what R&B offers. And it's that escapism. It's that chance to leave the world behind, roll down to Gisborne, roll over the hills into this paradise, and lose yourself for those few days. Meet new friends, come across new music, reset for the coming year ahead. Make some resolutions, and with the soundtrack of Central Sea, Dom Dollar, and some of the fantastic artists we've got, with the setting of Gisborne, the sunshine, the beaches, you'll leave that place a new person, and it's a rite of passage for a reason. It transforms people, and that's why people keep coming back. It's an intoxicating recipe that keeps us engaged all year to throw this event, and in a world where nothing feels constant, Rhythm and Vines is.
And how many tickets left?
Well, we better get in quick. We've got our second announcement coming up. But, we're about 70% sold. So recommending people get in now, book their ACOM. A lot of the houses are starting to go. So if you're wanting a batch-type experience, then jump online and try and secure one with your mates. Camping's all but sold out. I think there's a few remaining glamping spots. But start to gather your mates and make the commitment, because no one wants to be at that batch, twiddling their thumbs, looking at their phone on New Year's and saying, wish I could have been there. This is the year to do it, so make it happen.
I think even more special too, given the challenges that Tairāwhiti Gisborne has faced, cyclones, for the country to get behind and to support as well and put some money back into the local economy there.
That's a great statement. We are directing all our funds to the Gisborne Relief. We're really proud to come from the region. It's been, disheartening to see some of the damage all through the East Coast. So if we can bring a bit of light to the region through the festival and help raise some money while we're doing it, then it's a great concept. We've had a little bit of damage on site through the cyclone. Some of the culverts have blown. There's been some creep on some of the hills. So we're finding our own challenges with some of the damage down there, but some people are doing it really tough, so we want to get behind the region and give it something to look forward to.
But you also use the site in terms of some emergency service relief as well, right?
Yeah, no, we put some of our tents up for use as well. We've got a lot of infrastructure, the Portaloos, and it was on high ground, luckily, from the floods, but we actually got hammered the last month with just the rain. I think just the hills are so soggy. So we've got a bit of time now to dry it out before the festival, but, the whole region and Hawke's Bay has just been hammered, so our thoughts are with them.
Last one from me, Hamish. Are you the kind of guy that looks far into the future? Like, do you think in 10 years' time you'll still be running R&V? Do you have plans for the sort of second chapter of your life?
I don't think I'll be as hands-on with Rhythm and Vines in the coming years. I will always play a part. It means a lot to me, and it's a big part of who I am. I've got some great connections and contacts I can keep feeding towards the event, and as long as I'm in the country, I guess I'll be getting right behind it. But no, I have got big ambitions. It's been 21 years of doing this project, and I've got some other balls in the air. I'm really passionate about the Phoenix Summit. Roma and I want to continue doing some travelling and work on some other projects. So I think it'll be one important part of my life, but probably not the only thing I hope I've done.
Mate, it's been so cool hearing your journey. This has been an awesome ep. It's been so engaging and entertaining. So thanks for coming in and sharing our story. But I'll throw it to Shay.
Yeah, amazing in the last couple of days to see how you turned an idea. And so many of us have ideas. This podcast started as an idea, and turning that idea into reality, and sitting and listening to the small nuggets of wisdom that you're able to drop around just working continuously on it, hard work, doing stuff behind the scenes, just trying to graft and be better. It's easy to see why it is a rite of passage and an institution, and a Kiwi institution. You should be and I'm sure you are, so incredibly proud that every year people flock to this thing that you've created from back in your brain in Dunedin. It's a shame that we haven't been yet, but I'm sure we will get an opportunity to one day. Maybe, Stevie, you can take your kids when...
I need a 2-year runway.
Sow the seed now.
But it is phenomenal, and I've taken away a lot of kind of cool little nuggets, and I'm sure a lot of other people will, on just pursuing and grafting and building and making something as good as it can possibly be. And it is great right now, and it can only get better. Look forward to celebrating 30th and a 40th with you when you come back for those milestones after the 21st.
Thank you very much, mate. No, thanks. I mean, what you guys are achieving with your podcast is, it's action and it's tenacity, and, anyone can do it. So grab that idea and make it happen.
Cheers, Hamish.